do you think about that, Julio?
Well, let me make sure I got my head around this. So, How to Train Your Dragon was an animated movie first,
Yes. Yes.
and now it's a live action remake now, and that's the director
Yes, that's correct.
of the live action remake.
That's correct.
Okay, well, that's my first. It seems odd for him to say that, doesn't it?
Well, he's an animator, and so he's talking about the art of animation, and then bringing it to a big screen as a live action, and that he doesn't think that the how the animated series is propped up and the emotion that you got from watching those versus the live action. So he's not a fan of that.
All right, well,
And he's in Hollywood and directing a big budget movie, and he feels that way.
that was what surprised me. But I would agree. I know Disney over the past 15 years, they just keep doing live action remake after live action remake, and I always it's like, well, why do we want a live action Lion King? Watch the cartoon. But I guess they make money. I mean, that's clearly the answer as to why.
I think it's a couple different things. One is it's all about the trademark and the IP.
Mm.
About they have to do something with it because some of these IPs are 25 years old. So they have to do something with it. And also money. If they can get it pre-sold in China or whatever country is interested in backing it or them producing it from, it helps out a lot when you already have money coming in that before you even started shooting.
See, from what I've seen of the live action remakes, they're not as charming as the old or original cartoons. And the other thing that concerns me is that I'm hoping this isn't the case, but a younger generation will grow up and they will share with their kids the live action remakes as opposed to the classic Snow White, Lion King. And that, I think that's kind of sad.
Now, do you think it's strictly about money, or do you think that there's some nefarious stuff about doing it that way where these idiot parents aren't respecting the original property and they show their kids something that's half as good or quarter as good?
I think, like with everything, it's always about money, but I also do think there's a cultural they're doing it for cultural reasons as well. They're going back and fixing the old movies. Like you saw Rachel Ziegler. We watched her press junket for Snow White saying, well, it's old and it's
outdated.
Outdated.
Talking weird.
Weird. Yeah. So I think Disney, who's always been like at the forefront of the DEI and kind of Marxist cultural changes, they're trying to unwhitewash their old material so it matches more demographics of today, I guess. I think that's also part of it too.
Which is atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious.
It's Snow White. See, it's not
she
that hard.
Is as white as snow.
Right.
Not as Hispanic as the snow. Then make a movie that has a female lead in it that you think would be better than Snow White, but they don't. They want to grapple on to pre-existing properties and try to tap that freaking resource as much as they can, and then they want to shit on it and say, "Oh, it's whitewash. Like there's too many white people in it." What?
Yep. And then I'm sure we'll get into this as the show goes on, but just the kind of the deluge of remakes and sequels, and it seems like there's nothing. When my son and I went to see Deadpool versus Wolverine, there were trailers before the movie. Every single one of them was a remake or a sequel. There was no new movies. And even my son, who's not a big movie buff, pointed that out. He said, "Dad, is there anything new?" I said, "No. Everything's done under the sun, Zach."
And I think that's the downfall of Hollywood too, is because they're trying to tap these old resources as opposed to taking a chance on something new. Because they feel that, like, well, if I take a chance and it doesn't work out, we're going to lose money. Yep. But you're already losing money producing a shitty freaking remake.
Yep. I can pull up, Derek, if you don't mind, let me pull up the 2024 top worldwide box office numbers. and we'll show kind of why. So here, this is not this year because it's not done yet. So I pulled 2024.
Do you want to make it a little bigger? So
How's that?
Cool. Okay, yeah, that's cool.
All right. So if you look at the top movies, sequel, sort of a sequel, right? Sequel, based off something else. Sequel. This one I'll give a pass to because it's a book adaptation.
Okay.
So that's sort of new, although not a new IP. Sequel, until you get to this movie, which I've never heard of.
Yeah,
looks like it's a worldwide movie, but
YOLO. What's that? YOLO?
Yeah, never heard of it. But then even if you go past that, let's go down to 20. Sequel. I don't know what that is. Sequel. So to answer the question about it, is it about the money? Yeah, because that's what people will go see. I guess normies just want to go get comfort food and they don't want to be challenged. I think the last big original movie I can think of, and that was even based on a true story, was Oppenheimer.
And those type of movies always do well too, like your Oppenheimers or your suspense thrillers and your historical suspense drama type movies always do well.
Plus, I think you need to have a marquee director behind it, somebody like a Christopher Nolan or Denis Villeneuve. They can get away with it because people will go see their movies because of the director, so they'll take a chance. So? I do, especially with Christopher Nolan. Like, people will go, well, loved Interstellar, which I loved Interstellar. It's amazing. Yeah. You trust him kind of to come out with a quality movie. Oppenheimer was him too, I think, right?
Yeah. The Dark Knight series.
Yeah. So they've proven to the audience that they're going to bring you a quality film, more or less, every time out of the gate. So I think people will say, all right, I'll go see that because it's that guy.
Yeah, and it could, I mean, there's always snoozers and misses and everything, but yeah, he's pretty consistent.
I know Tenet was a bit of a slip up for him. I never saw it, but I heard it's amazingly confusing and nobody really got it. Came out during COVID, which didn't help either.
But I mean, everybody was at home though. Put that shit on a streamer or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but even, somebody is passionate about, like, I'm a huge Greek literature guy, big into Odyssey, Iliad, and all that stuff. And I know Christopher Nolan is directing the new Odyssey movie.
Okay.
And I am nervous about it because I see what they did in Troy to the Iliad in the movie Troy. But I'm like, well,
that was 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, it still burns. And then
Brad Pitt was younger man during that time.
Yep. And then also in the Odyssey, they've cast a black woman to be Athena, which is ridiculous. If you read the description of Athena from Greek literature, she's gray-eyed and fair-skinned.
They can't stop themselves. They can't.
So normally I would not go see the movie just based on that because I know it's all going to trigger me because I'm kind of a purist when it comes to that stuff. But it's Christopher Nolan, so I will go see it because I trust that he will put out a good product and I'll not be annoyed by things that normally would annoy me.
And it has nothing to do with an actor or an actress being black. It has everything to do with them shoehorning them into a role because they're black. There's a huge difference. Huge difference.
Recent example of that this is a movie that was on that list I just shared was kind of jamming Zendaya and everything, including Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
I also am a huge fan of the Dune series. She also almost ruined that movie too. It had a little bit. It had to do with her acting skills, which weren't up to snuff with everybody else. Plus, they changed her character a lot in the book to make it more modern day feminist kind of thing.
And when you have that type of opinion, people are going to pull the ists out, and because they want to shut you down, and it's like it has nothing to do with their skin color as a person, as a character. But when you shoehorn a represented class person into a role that is not for a represented class person, is bullshit.
Yep. And to bring it back to us talking about remakes and live action remakes, I think it's jarring, at least to people like me. When I hear Snow White, I think, like most people my age do, I think of the animated show. And then you pull up the movie and you're like, that's Snow White? Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Or in the instance of the Odyssey movie, if you read the book, and one of the great things about reading as opposed to watching is you build the movie in your mind and you go, this is what this character would look like. And then if it's so opposite in a movie, like casting a black woman as Athena, it's jarring. It takes you out of it.
Yeah. Because it's like you've already have, from reading the book, you've already have an idea of what the characters are. And then all of a sudden they want to pigeonhole somebody into a role, and it's like, what? Like I would, if I ever got a movie that, was substantially funded, and somebody tried to tell me to pigeonhole something in there, I'm going to tell them no. I'm going to tell them to go fuck themselves, because I have the image of what the character is, and then we're going to roll with that image that I have in my head. I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, because of I have to do it because the overlords say, you can go fuck yourself.
That when they shoot, like it goes back into race swapping in Disney remakes that we were talking about it.
Yeah.
The other thing that bothers me is young people who maybe aren't familiar with the Odyssey or aren't familiar with the Dune book series. That's what in their head it will be.
Yeah.
And that's, as a
not
literature purist, I know I'm being persnickety, but that bugs me a little.
How many Dune books are there?
Well, depends on if you include his son's books, but the true books written by Frank Herbert, there's 6.
Okay, 6 books and then 2 movies, correct?
Well, there was the 1984 one directed by David Lynch.
Okay.
Which was like a fever dream. It was amazing. It was so weird. Then the Sci-Fi Network did miniseries adaptations of the first 3 books.
Okay.
And then the Denis Villeneuve movies that just came out.
About 10 to 12 either books or movies about that particular thing. And then the 13th property, you want to pigeonhole a colored character into a thing that's already had a history. That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of reasons. I hate that stuff with a passion.
Me too.
You don't give a shit about the original property at all. You don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And then in China, are you going to be able to sell that in China?
Well,
no.
It's a good point. Make sure to get the black people off the poster before you send it to China, because they don't like.
And nobody ever wants to bring
racist
that
in
up.
China.
Yeah, nobody ever wants to bring that up. They want to shut you down because you're like, well, this character wasn't necessarily black. Well, are you a racist? It's like there's 6 books, 7 movies, all this lure, and then all of a sudden you want to change it. Okay.
Yeah, that was even a thing in the Star Wars movies. I know The Last Jedi, which came out, had a Vietnamese actress in it, and the Chinese weren't even happy about that. I guess they don't like Vietnamese in China. I don't know. I don't follow up on who they're racist against. I just assume everybody. But
I'm assuming if you're not Chinese, they're not a fan.
No, right. So that's even, it's, Star Wars even has done all the new Star Wars shows, with the exception of Andor, are all girl power, race swapping stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, we looked at all the reboots and remakes, and they're clearly dominating the box office, which we saw.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're dominating the box office because of this stunt casting. I think they're dominating the box office because, like I said, people want something they're familiar with.
Do you feel like that?
I do. My daughter and my
you only gonna go check out stuff that you're familiar with, or you're gonna explore into something new? Yeah.
I rarely go see movies, to be honest with you. So
yeah, it's got to be a big thing for me.
Yeah, like if my son wants to go, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go see Deadpool versus Wolverine, whatever. It's fun. But no, not really. I'll go if it's something that interests me or it has an actor I particularly like, or like I said, if it's Christopher Nolan, I'll probably go see whatever he puts out. But no, I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't. Being familiar, I don't really care. Like, why would I want to?
Soccer mom is going to be like, well, Ghostbusters came out and I loved it back then, so we're going to watch it.
Yes, I do think that.
You think women think that way?
Yeah, well, there are some. Well, I can speak from experience. I happen to have been married to a woman who is now about my age, no longer married, but anyways, but she buys into all the SJW stuff. She's like super You know, so she'll
woke.
super woke, which I don't know what happened, but anyway. So she took my daughter to see Moana, the live action remake. Oh, it was wonderful, and they had a Pacific Islander character. So I think some women do buy into it. Middle-aged women, I guess, soccer moms. To your point, that's white women, Derek. I'm telling you.
Do you think it's? I mean, we can deep dive into this.
White women.
We can say white women, but we can say women in general. Do you think it's just a lack of knowledge of how the world works, or is it just what they feel at that particular time is what it is?
The latter. What they feel. I think it's I don't know. It's like now we're getting into psychology, but I think a lot of older women want to be young, so they will ape what young people are doing at the time, but they do it through an old person's viewpoint, so they won't kind of get it.
Yeah,
they'll be like, "Oh, all the kids seem to like race swap characters nowadays, so I'm on board with that. Let's go see Moana." It's NPC behavior.
It is retarded behavior.
Well, what are you gonna do?
I'm an overanalyzer. I overanalyze the shit out of stuff. So somebody like me, I've never had any kind of that type of even thought ever.
No, I haven't either.
Since birth, I've never been like influenced by whatever it is. I'm always just like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Well, let me play.
Oh, that sounds cool. Let's go do it. You know what I mean? I've never been influenced.
Yeah. Let me play devil's advocate on that comment, though. So we're talking about remakes and race swaps and gender swaps and whatever.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time complaining about it. So are we being kind of NPCs as well, just bitching about, oh no, Rachel Ziegler's Snow White? I mean, because I could
give a reason why we feel that way. We're not just like, I'm not watching them. You know what I mean? Well, we give a reason why.
True, like the casting of a black woman.
Not like the reason why we give.
Yeah. Casting a black woman as Athena bothers me because Athena wasn't black. I mean, in any depiction ever of a story that's 2,500 years old, nowhere, ever, anywhere, was she not a fair-skinned, gray-eyed, often blonde, Greek, white woman.
Yeah.
So I guess that justifies being a little annoyed with it, but maybe I could see other people saying, who cares? What's the difference? It's a fake character. There wasn't really an Athena, so in real life.
That's a fucking retarded way to look at it.
I'm just trying to play the other side.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about like the person that says that, like, who cares?
I've heard it a lot from people.
Thousands and thousands of years. Who cares? Oh!
I've heard it a lot from people saying these are fake characters. Who cares what color they are? They don't really exist. But I'm like, well, they do on the page. If it's an adaptation of a book.
That's just retarded thinking by people.
Well,
thinking. With my job is I talk to retarded people all the time where they don't understand how the world works.
On your streams, you talk to retarded people sometimes.
So, I mean, that's possible.
Appreciating you. Yeah.
I'm retarded. I never claimed to be not retarded. That's the thing, is I call people retarded, but I've never claimed not to be retarded. Okay, so yeah, I talk to people that it just seems like they never understood. They never understand how the world works ever. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think that's willfully ignorant, or do you think that they just live in their bubble and they don't give a fuck?
I don't know. I think they live in their bubble and don't give a fuck and don't know any different to even challenge their own thought process.
Because I've never had the opportunity to ever have a bubble. I've always had to fucking manage shit on my own.
Well, yeah,
my parents will, my dad will give me a kick in the butt, or he'll give me a little bit of encouragement. But for the most part, I've always had to try to figure it out on my own. I've never had the ability to just be like, I live in a bubble. And not like this is it. It's never happened ever.
On the other hand, that is the way the world works, though, Derek. If you look at the top 20 movies of the 2024 box office, so we're clearly wrong.